Well, riding season is in full swing and most of my bikes are broken. The Rebel's out of commission and the Navi's broken. But the Grom's fine. I think I haven't actually started it since last fall, so we'll see. But this video is not about the Grom, the only working bike out of the three of them. This video is about the broken bikes. So I'm gonna give you a rundown of what happened to both of them. Neither of them are solved yet, and I'll probably make a video individually about each of the bikes once we figure out the solutions, but I wanted to give you guys a quick breakdown of what happened to both of the bikes in the past, I want to say week, but honestly the past few days. Since we're already down here with the Navi, and the Navi's issue is the simplest issue slash simplest fix, we'll just start with the Navi. I'll tell you what's wrong with that, then we'll move on to the Rebel. So the Navi broke yesterday. I was riding home and the exhaust stud snapped. If you look up in there, the left exhaust stud is totally sheared off, and then the right exhaust stud is missing a nut. So essentially what happened is at this point the Rebel 1100 was already out of commission, and I had to go to a local dealer to talk to them about the problem and figure out what we were going to do about it. And it was beautiful out, so I didn't want to take the car, so I figured I'll take the Navi. But this place is about a half hour away, and it's mostly a highway that's 50 miles per hour there. So I rode there on mostly back roads and it was fine, but on the way back I'm like, you know what, I feel like it's quick enough to keep up with traffic in the 45-50 mile per hour zone, so let's try that. Honestly, it was doing great for the most part, and then out of nowhere, like literally like a car full of kids was waving at me. I'm like, oh hey, people love the mini moto.
Everybody loves the mini motos, dude.
And then boom, it just got loud. Not just loud, but loud and like hollow and tinny. And every time I let off the throttle, it backfired like crazy.
Something just started making noise that I don't like. And backfiring a shit ton. What sounds different?
And in my head, I'm like, I just blew the motor. I definitely just blew the motor. But the more that I listened, I'm like, no, it's something with the exhaust.
Something doesn't sound right. Did the Yoshi pipe crack?
So I pulled over and I looked under the bike, assuming that maybe the flange cracked off like the Vance and Hines exhausts do, but the flange was intact and I saw the nut still on there, so I'm like, everything looks fine. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna keep riding.
No, the Yoshi pipe looks good. What the f is going on, dude? Spark arrestor's still in there. I don't see oil leaking from anywhere. I don't see anything out of the normal. But it's backfiring. Something doesn't sound right, but I can't pinpoint from where. I guess we try to make it home and see what happens.
I keep riding and the noise gets louder.
It sounds like the exhaust just blew apart. What the f is this?
And I have to pull over because I'm like, nah, at this point it's bad. I look underneath and now the nut is missing. And I'm like, I swear everything was just fine. Where's the nut at now? Then I look at the other exhaust stud and it's gone.
No shot, dude. What the f?
So I had to go get a nut from a local hardware store. I limped it there and then put one nut on and then limped it home with only one exhaust stud. And now here she sits with a broken exhaust stud, and I ordered a replacement stud, replacement nuts, and a replacement exhaust gasket. That should be here in hopefully within a week. Holy crap, dude. I doubt that you guys can see it, but right there, a hawk just flew down and it had some sort of animal in its talons and it's shredding it apart right now. Damn, nature's cool. Anyway, I got distracted. So yeah, those parts are on the way, should be here within a week. Sucks that it happened, should be a pretty simple fix. We just gotta wait on parts for that. All right, so as I'm editing the video and I'm watching the footage back, I think I finally figured out what happened and how the exhaust stud broke. So within less than a minute and a half of each other, I hit two pretty decent bumps. The first one was a seriously big bump that I hit doing, I don't know, probably at least 40 or 50. And the video doesn't do it any justice, but it jarred me, like sent me off the seat, really bad bump.
Oh, that just broke my wrist.
And my theory is that that bump was big enough that that's what cracked the exhaust stud. Maybe not all the way through and it didn't come all the way off, but I think that's what cracked it. And then less than a minute and a half later, right after those kids pulled up next to me, I hit another bump that's a little bit smaller, but my theory is that that bump is what finally broke the exhaust stud totally loose, because I hit that bump and then like you can hear it trail into the raspy, tinny, louder part. So I think between those two bumps, it broke the exhaust stud and then made the exhaust stud fall off. And then that's when I pulled over and checked everything out because it sounded off. And that's when I looked underneath it with my camera and I saw that the nut was still there. And I just assumed that because that one was there, that the other one was. Like, the main thing I was looking for was a cracked flange, and that was fine. And my theory is that then once I started going again, because there was only one exhaust stud left, all of the vibrations went to the other exhaust stud, which rattled the other nut off, which is why as I started riding, only a couple minutes later, it got super loud because that's when the nut finally fell off and now it wasn't sealed up properly at all. And that is what I think the series of events is. So I thought that I torqued everything down properly. I don't know if I tightened the nuts down too much and maybe that's what did it, or if the Yoshi pipe is just too freaking strong and with a bump that big, all the pressure went through the pipe and hit the studs and the studs lost. Yeah, I don't know, but that's my theory. If you have any other theories, leave them below. And now for the Rebel. Damn, is she looking good. Dirty, but good. Just how I like my women, but no, but seriously, she's looking good, but unfortunately she has sprung some pretty serious issues. So we got a leak there and we got a leak there. The leak on the left side has become pretty common enough that in my research, once I realized that I had it, I looked it up on the forums and I found 27 other people that have the same leak. I don't want to take the cover off to show you guys, so I'll throw some B-roll in. All right, so some not so cool stuff is happening right now. I just discovered that I have the infamous Rebel 1100 oil leak and figured I would document it. Have not taken the cover off yet to expose it all the way, but for those of you who don't know, let me turn on the light. There is a semi-infamous oil leak that comes from right there because it doesn't seat properly, and mine has never had it, but I was just looking at something, looking at this, wondering if it's like oxidation or like what the hell is going on there, and I looked and I noticed, hey, that's kind of wet, and then I looked underneath here, and what do you know, there's oil all over the bottom here, so it looks like it has just dripped all down the front and ran down underneath that little cover right there, and it's now even all underneath the oil pan, so that's not great. I already found another little oil leak previously over here, but it's not really a leak, it's more of just like I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of like sludge that builds up right there. That's like the little coolant thingy, whatever it's called, the coolant overflow or whatever, and it's been coming out of there, so I just assume the gasket isn't fully sealed there, but none of it ever comes out enough to concern me. But oh yeah, you can see in there, yeah, there's oil dripping all down it. All right, well, let's go ahead and pull that cover off and see how bad it is. Ah, yeah, that's a good one. All right, so you can see there's oil all over that and then going all down the back here. I'm still not convinced that that's where all this is coming from, but I guess it is. Apparently it just doesn't seal properly there and all the oil leaks down the front. And the solution is just to, I guess, put some sort of sealant in there. So I guess we'll have to do that and hope that it does the trick. Yeah, it's everywhere. Not as bad as some people's have been, but yeah, not stoked on that. All right, so it's a little bit later and it is 5:52 on April 3rd because I know I'll forget when I did this. I got everything wiped down. The cover's totally clean and all under here is wiped down, totally free of oil. And I wiped down this area and the little nozzle thing right there. Everything's nice and clean. So now we'll keep an eye on it and see how long it takes for the oil leak to continue and see how bad it gets.
End of flashback.
You can see the stator wires coming through right there, and that grommet, I guess, doesn't seal up properly with the case, and oil starts leaking out of that grommet. A bunch of people have had this issue. Apparently, there's no gasket on this left side case. It's all just RTV silicone or whatever, like not an actual gasket. And lots of the 2021s, I guess, in production, they must not have put enough RTV in there to seal it up. So over time, as this wire heats and cools down and whatever, it starts to leak, and you got to take the cover off and put some new sealant around it. Some people have said that they think that theirs is the O-ring for the crank position sensor or whatever that sensor is down there, but that is definitely not the case with mine because you can see that the oil leaked from that gasket down onto the little bracket there, which means that the leak is obviously coming from above that sensor, not at the sensor. But yeah, so that leak, I'm like, oh, that sucks, whatever, we'll get it taken care of. I could do it myself, but but I feel like with an issue like that so many people are having, it would be better to take it to a dealer so that it's actually like properly documented if it ever becomes a recall. So not a big deal, but it still stressed me out. But then as I was looking at that leak, I found another one that is way more concerning. All right, so we got this nozzle over here. I forget the exact term, but essentially it is the water pump weep hole. So the water pump is right here, which circulates coolant through the motor. And if the pressure gets to be too much, it has this weep hole so it can put coolant out of there instead of like blowing the radiator cap off or whatever. So it's kind of normal for a little bit of coolant to come out of there, but not a whole lot. But there have been some people that had water pump failures and it's just absolutely gushed coolant out of there. Not as many as the 27 people that had that leak. I think I've only seen maybe 4 or 5 people that had that happen, but mine did leak a decent amount of coolant sometime last year, but it wasn't anything crazy. It only happened once, so I've kept an eye on it, and that was kind of that. Well, as I was checking this leak out the other day, I saw some funk on here, and I'm like, okay, it's probably just crusted up like coolant, I don't know, just some gunk. But I wiped it and it was kind of thick, and I'm like, that's weird. So I cleaned everything off, and then I looked and there was a droplet on the end, and I was like, oh, it must be coolant, let's wipe that. And it was actually coolant mixed with oil. And that's when my heart sank, because if you guys know anything about motors, you know that oil and coolant shouldn't be mixed, and if they are, then something bad is happening. So I wiped it off, I've kept an eye on it, and 2 other times now there's been a single droplet on the nozzle that was a little bit of oil and a little bit of coolant. So my concern now is that not that the water pump is going out, although it might be. My concern is that the water pump gasket is most likely going out, which is letting just a little bit of oil through and then seeping out of the seep hole, weep hole, whatever it's called, you get it. I spoke to a local dealer and they said that if it's just that small amount happening, I should be good to ride it in just to get service done and have it looked at, but nothing else. So that's exactly what I have planned today. I'm taking the bike back to Pete's Cycle in Baltimore where I got the bike, and they're gonna look at it for me. They are a bit booked up. However, I told them that I have my meetup coming up conveniently in 2 weeks where 50 some odd people are coming from out of town for a meetup involving the Rebel 1100, and it'd be great to have my Rebel 1100 back by then so I'm not riding the Grom on a group ride. So shout out to Pete's Cycle for squeezing me in last minute. They're gonna try and check it out in whatever downtime that they have so they can get to it before my meetup, and fingers crossed that it's not as bad as it seems. Sealing up the left side case should be simple enough. The thing that I'm concerned about is what that oil and coolant mixture means, and if it's actually something to be worried about, which I'm pretty sure it should be. But we're headed out now to see what they say.
All right, we made it here, and I'm not seeing any weird stuff on the thingy, and nothing seriously leaking, so I guess we'll see.
All right, the bike's dropped off here at Pete's Cycle. Nina came to pick me up and save the day. They're gonna get to it when they can get to it, so we should have some news in maybe 4 to 5 days, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, pray for the bike, pray for my wallet, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Love you guys, peace.
Oh, so basic, hope you play this. Damn, I prayed it, nice song, and I became this. Oh, souls fake it, pay those placements, fuck shit. And I'm still waiting on the brighter days. Been a minute, been rough many times more. And I'm kicking rocks to a sky of gray, praying hard, talk to me before I'm done for.